Depending on your location, Apple introduced the crash detection feature on the iPhone 14 Pro Max. This feature uses advanced sensors to alert emergency services if you're not responsive. That's Apple putting you first. The iPhone 14 Pro Max is one of the best smartphones in the market today, especially because of its features that help bring a new age of iPhone technology. The iPhone 14 Pro Max was released on September 7th, 2022, although you could start buying it from September 16th, 2022. Since then, Apple has shipped over 26 million units of the iPhone 14 Pro Max. The question is, has the iPhone 14 Pro Max performed well since then? Let's talk about the display. For years, Apple users have not been happy nor comfortable with the notch at the top of the iPhone. But when it comes to the iPhone 14 Pro Max, Apple made it clear that it's no longer a notch, but what they call the dynamic island. The question is, what's the dynamic island? The dynamic island is actually an interactive pill-shaped cutout at the top of the screen that houses the front camera and Face ID sensors. You see, the main aim of the dynamic island is to bring about a more engaging user experience, such as live activities and interactive notifications, as well as multitasking. In essence, Apple turned the hardware feature, that is the camera and sensors, into a functional and aesthetic part of the software. The iPhone 14 Pro Max came with an always-on display, which is a very big upgrade, especially because a lot of Android phones has always had that feature for years. It's actually a feature that allows you to seek information like widgets, notifications, and time without having to wake up the phone. Guess what? It actually uses little power to use this feature, the always-on display. The iPhone 14 Pro Max features a 6.7-inch Super Retina XDR OLED display, which enhances viewing experience thanks to its vibrant colors. The iPhone 14 Pro Max has a resolution of 2796 by 1290 pixels at 460 ppi. In my iPhone 13 Pro Max video, which is actually one of my last videos, I talked about Apple introducing ProMotion on the iPhone 13 Pro and iPhone 13 Pro Max. But when it comes to the iPhone 14 Pro Max, it's even better because the always-on display feature uses the ProMotion 120Hz refresh rate, unlike the iPhone 13 Pro Max that selects app to use the ProMotion. Aside that, the 120Hz refresh rate is great for gaming in the iPhone 14 Pro Max. I mentioned widgets earlier. Well, you can now see widgets on your lock screen, such as the battery level of your AirPods, your alarm, how much battery life your phone has, because in previous iPhones, you had to swipe down to see your widgets, but now you don't have to do that. In terms of weight, the iPhone 14 Pro Max weighs about 240 grams. It is slightly heavier than the iPhone 14 Pro, which weighs around 206 grams, mainly due to the larger size and bigger battery on the iPhone 14 Pro Max. And when it comes to colors, the iPhone 14 Pro Max actually doesn't have the Ceria Blue, which is actually one of the best colors in the iPhone 13 Pro Max, but instead it was replaced with the Deep Purple. Well, the iPhone 14 Pro Max comes with gold color, the Deep Purple, Space Black, and Silver. You see, people sometimes mistake the silver color for white, but it is actually silver. When it comes to performance, the iPhone 14 Pro Max uses the A16 Bionic chip, which is very fast and efficient. It can actually handle multitasking with ease and high quality gaming. The A16 Bionic chip will ensure smooth performance for years to come. When I mentioned the crash detection feature earlier on, I didn't explain the feature very well since it was the intro, but let me explain. You see, when the crash detection feature detects a severe car crash, okay, it will display an alert that will automatically make an emergency phone call after 20 seconds unless you cancel. You see, if you don't cancel, your iPhone will play an audio message for an emergency service which informs them that you were involved in a severe accident, and this feature gives them your location coordinate, that is your longitude and latitude, with an approximate search radius. The question is, does the crash detection feature work only for Americans? Well, according to Apple's discussion website, they said no, it's available for all countries. Well, you can find a link to this article in our description, but for now, let's talk about the camera of the iPhone 14 Pro Max. The iPhone 14 Pro Max has an ultra-wide camera as part of its triple camera system, with a larger 12 megapixel sensor with a 120-degree field of view, allowing you to capture expansive shots and creative angles. The iPhone 14 Pro Max also has a 12 megapixel sensor with 2x optical zoom, which is great for close-up shots without compromising quality. This is actually one of the best lenses out of the triple camera system. Quality over quantity, that is the telephoto lens. The iPhone 14 Pro Max also have a mean-wide 14 megapixel sensor. This is actually a high-resolution sensor that captures detailed photos and performs well in various lighting conditions. You also need to understand that due to iPhone 14 Pro Max's larger sensors at the back, as well as the improved photonic engine, the iPhone 14 Pro Max handles low light scenes better than previous models. You see, night mode is also great on the iPhone 14 Pro Max. In fact, the photos come out with sharper and brighter colors, as well as better color accuracy. And when it comes to the main camera, the 14 megapixel sensor on the main camera provides great exceptional detail in image quality, especially in daylight shots. This doesn't mean that low light is problematic for the iPhone 14 Pro Max. In fact, in low light, Apple's computational photography shines, producing vibrant images with good dynamic range. Here's a photo I took with the main camera of the iPhone 14 Pro Max. What do you think? When it comes to the video quality on the iPhone 14 Pro Max, this phone actually offers 4K recording at 60 frames per second, which is also similar with the iPhone 15 Pro Max. So what does this mean? It means that the iPhone 14 Pro Max is still a top tier option for video recording in 2024. And when it comes to cinematic mode on the iPhone 14 Pro Max, it actually allows you to shoot videos with a blurred background effect and change the focal point dynamically to give a film-like look, like the one you see on your screen. So what do you think? The action mode is also fantastic as well, as it helps to provide an enhanced stabilization for videos, which is great for capturing fast-moving scenes. And when it comes to the battery life on the iPhone 14 Pro Max, it actually has a 4322 mAh battery life. This battery can last up to 25 hours of video playback and even 29 hours of talk time. And as of 2024, this is great. Meanwhile, the iPhone 14 Pro Max supports fast charging with around 50% charge in about 30 minutes. That is great. Now, When it comes to the security on the iPhone 14 Pro Max, Apple continues to prioritize security across this ecosystem, and the iPhone 14 Pro Max is no exception. For example, the secure enclave feature that was introduced in the iPhone 5s in 2013 is even more secure than ever before, as it is encrypted within the A16 Bionic chip that securely manages sensitive data like Apple Pay information and Face ID data. But the standard feature or security feature on the iPhone 14 Pro Max is the lockdown mode. Now, this feature, the lockdown mode, was created or designed to offer an extreme level of protection in case of cyber threats. Now, this feature was introduced to protect government officials and journalists from cyber threat actually. And you can actually learn more about the lockdown mode in our description. As usual, the Face ID is more better and faster on the iPhone 14 Pro Max. And when it comes to security updates, the iPhone 14 Pro Max will continue to receive security updates for many years, although I'm not really a fan of for iPhone users to updating the iOS constantly to latest versions due to the risks involved, and most times it results to battery drainage or reduction in battery health. Okay, let's talk about the storage. Now, when it comes to storage, the iPhone 14 Pro Max is available in 128 gig, although this can be limiting for you if you shoot 4K videos constantly. Personally, I would suggest you just go for the 256 gig instead. Although if you're the type of person that stores large music or use pro photos regularly, I would suggest the 512 gig instead. Meanwhile, if you're a professional creator with large audience, I would suggest you just go for the 1 terabyte storage as a professional creator. And when it comes to 5G connectivity on the iPhone 14 Pro Max, just as I mentioned in the 13 Pro Max video, it solely depends on your location. Yes, the 14 Pro Max offers 5G connectivity, but your region matters a lot. For example, not everywhere in Nigeria and other African countries, as well as Europe or even the Middle East, can offer 5G networks. In essence, you might not enjoy the benefit of using the 14 Pro Max 5G if that's the case for you. So the question now is, how does the iPhone 14 Pro Max compares with modern iPhones? In the iPhone 13 Pro Max video, I talked about how Apple users were disappointed that the iPhone 13 Pro Max lacked a USB-C charging, and I also stated the reasons why they were not happy on that video. You can check that out later on. And the iPhone 14 Pro Max is no exception as well, because it still also uses a Lightning port too. Okay, and another thing for you to also understand is modern iPhones are more lighter than the iPhone 14 Pro Max, simply because the iPhone 14 Pro Max uses a stainless steel frame, whereas the modern iPhones uses the titanium frame. In terms of camera, modern iPhones has improved on the camera. For example, the telephoto zoom on the iPhone 14 Pro Max is 3x, but on the 15 Pro Max it's actually 5x, which allows you for much better optical zoom. Now, in terms of performance with modern phones, the iPhone 14 Pro Max A16 Bionic chip is great for gaming. Unfortunately, it lacks cooling system to reduce overheating, unlike the 16 Pro Max that has that. In essence, you can play games longer on 16 Pro Max than the iPhone 14 Pro Max. So the big question now is the iPhone 14 Pro Max a good device to use in 2024? Well, my answer is yes. You see, the gap between the iPhone 14 Pro Max and the iPhone 16 Pro Max is not as huge as the gap between the iPhone 14 Pro Max and the iPhone XS Max. In fact, that's a huge gap. That shouldn't be a comparison. Yes, the iPhone 14 Pro Max lacks USB-C charging, as well as 5x telephoto zoom, and also lacks 120 frames per second like for 4K videos like in the iPhone 16 Pro Max. But this device is solid in 2024, especially because it has the cinematic mode, which is good for content creators. I also have promotion, which is good for gamers, the 120Hz refresh rate, which is good for gamers. Okay, so if you enjoyed this video, please like, share and subscribe. I will see you next week Monday. Thank you and so long. And for those who have subscribed before, I appreciate the love. Thank you.